Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, one of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going Weekly Games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. This is episode number 297 on Sunday night, the 2nd of July, in this year of our gaming, 2023. Here with me, as always, I have my faithful co-host, Mr. Tao Master 99. How you doing, Tao?
I'm doing okay. I'm fighting allergies tonight, so I'm going to try to keep the sniffling and sneezing down, hopefully. A lot of muting tonight, I'll say that.
Yeah, I will. I'll chalk it up as me being lucky then. Usually I'm the one with the super bad allergies every episode, but tonight I'm okay. I haven't been out of the yard this weekend. That is probably why things are not that bad. So without much further ado, let's get to it. We'll start off tonight with segment 1, our main gaming experience stories. Tao, I've got you teed up to talk about your newest late games, recent games to discuss, starting off with your follow-on debrief of Diablo 4.
Yeah, newish. Well, new to me. I'll say that. I actually had a chance to play a good amount of games this week. My usuals, Fortnite and Rocket League and all that, Minecraft. But yeah, I kept on with Diablo for a couple days this week, actually, only. Unfortunately, I didn't get a whole lot of chance to get into it, much as I wanted to. But jump back into my Necromancer. I think I mentioned last week that I was doing the Druid and I was just getting slammed. So I went back to the Necromancer. It actually keeps your difficulty on whatever that character is. So that one's still on a veteran. I didn't have to bring it down like I did with the Druid. So went in there, going through the story, got to there was one boss I actually did defeat as the Druid, which was pretty hard. With my Necromancer, it still took a little while because I didn't get to do my summons as much as I could have usually, like I usually do, because there wasn't a lot of extra enemies that were coming around. So it was kind of the boss. It was like this old woman, grandma looking person. But so I was able to take her down pretty quickly. Got through her. I saw my Necromancer, other than the summons, though, I got a bunch of other powers too that are just kind of pretty powerful. So it was just a matter of just kind of wearing her down. Like she's got like a super high HP. So you just gotta will her down. So I got through her, and then I was just going through the story more because that's what I'm doing with the Necromancer. So just kind of doing that. I think there was. I'm trying to remember. I think there was one other area where I kind of had an issue. And it seemed once again like there was like a lot of enemies that were getting thrown at me, and I don't think I had gotten to this part yet with the Druid. So I gotta once I go back to my Druid to see how that fares, if it's any different. But still enjoying it, still going through. I still haven't had a chance actually to play with anybody yet. Hoping to actually play with you guys, you and DB at some point, and get going with that side of it. Just the random people I see, like obviously it's just in the world, like we'll beat up some event monster or mini boss or whatever it is, and that's pretty much it. We go our separate ways. So I haven't had anybody, or I haven't myself, said, hey, you want to join up? So I was just kind of trying to go through it, by myself at first. So I haven't heard like how long like the story missions or like how the single player is, how long it is. I don't know if you've heard.
I think it's 18 hours if you mainline it.
Okay, so maybe with my Necromancer, I should be able to finish it fairly quick. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Diablo. I don't know if you've had a chance to play more of it this past week.
I have not gone back to it. No. No, like I said, I mean, we'll probably be playing that game for years. I haven't. Yeah. It is not popped into my list of like seasonal rotation things that I need to keep up with. So it unfortunately did not get a slot this most recent week.
Yeah, I did see some reports too about, and I guess some people were kind of like, what? But like when they start the seasons, you got to create your own character or create a new character, which that's what they did in 3. So I don't know why people are like shocked about that, or I don't know, maybe thought they would be different this time around. But I was like, okay, I mean that's what they did last year. So
no, I don't think it's people who are experienced in Diablo, and I've been talking about this on some other podcasts recently. I think this is a matter of. I think we talked about it too, but like, when Monster Hunter World came along, people told me this is the Monster Hunter for people who don't like Monster Hunter. And then when Elden Ring came along, people told me this is the Souls games for people who don't like Souls games. And now that Diablo 4 has come along, and then even more recently, people have told me that Final Fantasy 16 is the Final Fantasy for people who don't like Final Fantasy. And console gamers who I think, aren't as familiar with the legacy of Diablo 4 were told this is the Diablo for you people who don't know Diablo. And so I think a lot of them, a lot of the volume of this, this mistake about what the expectations were about the follow-on seasons. I was, on Basement Radio Arcade podcast, I specifically talked about this when we did our Diablo 4 preview coverage. I was like, so this is the structure of what Diablo 3 live service was. We haven't heard any indication that Diablo 4 is going to be any different, other than the fact that what we did here was that, when they add in seasonal content this time, it's going to change the world and it's going to be like an ongoing story. And so if you go and participate in the content, but I'm like, and I don't think you have to create a new character. I believe the way it works is the same way it did last time, which is if you want all of the benefits and all of the rewards of the side missions and stuff like that, the way to do that is to go through with a new character, because I believe the way it was before, you were just rerunning the campaign. It was just that there was additional content there in terms of side missions or things that had changed. I'm not sure if it's exactly that same thing, but it's 70% the same way as it was last time. So I think this is just a matter of console gamers who weren't as familiar with the old model, and therefore we're anticipating, not having been told or marketed that it was going to be that way, but for some reason, convince themselves that, the seasonal content was going to be similar to other games. But I think we've been sending out, warning signals to everyone to not have those expectations, right? Because that's not what Diablo has been in the past.
Yeah, definitely. And 3 was my first one. I hadn't played 1 or 2 before that. So I think in general, it's not a hard game to get into. You can fool around with the armor and the weapons when as you get them, and you can trick it out and upgrade them and stuff. But even if you just which is pretty much what I do, if you stick with the highest powered weapon and armor, you pretty much can get through it, I believe. And once again, you could always drop the difficulty and stuff like that. So at least that gameplay wise, it's not. At least I don't think, and maybe just because I've been playing games for so long, I didn't think it was hard to get into or anything like that. Obviously, there's all the lore and stuff. I didn't know what was going on. Okay, and I'm not even sure. I think we mentioned this, or I've asked this before. If there's an overall, well, I guess there's a lore obviously through the different games, but I think each game is kind of standalone, right? Basically, or is there a story thread that kind of?
It is a story thread that kind of continuously goes through. You typically pick up having, known that the evil from the last game has been defeated. And so I think, and I haven't played all the way through the story on this one, but I think some of the, characters they reference and talk to right in this one, were characters in the past. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they are kind of standalone stories. You don't have to have played the previous games by any means to get into them. Obviously, you don't bring your character forward or anything like that. But yeah, I think there is a continuing thread of lore that goes all the way back to the first Diablo. Diablo 2 picks up from months after Diablo 2, Diablo 1. That evil would have been defeated. So
okay,
yeah.
All right, cool. All right, let me jump into my next game, which one that unfortunately I was gonna try to buy it on the Switch, but that was canceled. So it was Marvel's Midnight Suns, and I was gonna wait for Steam sale, which summer Steam sale came along this past week. So I got it on there. It was $24, kind of a number I think, but $23.99. So I picked that up. Actually, I picked that up along with another game, Project Zomboid, which I haven't got a chance to play yet, but I'll probably play that this coming week. So I was playing Marvel's Midnight Suns. I didn't get too into it, and I've probably only had 2 battles, maybe 3, I think, if I remember correctly. But there's a lot of talking in this. And I think you had warned us about that too.
When you started, didn't you start playing this before on Xbox?
No,
this is your first time playing it?
Yeah, I think DP had been playing it, or was
okay,
I believe.
Yeah,
I didn't pick it up at all because I was going to wait for the Switch version, because I figured, this is probably a good, kind of portable game, but stuff happens. So like I said, not super far into it. I'm liking it so far, at least story wise. I'm liking it. The battle, like I said, haven't been too keen on the just kind of turn based or tactical battling system. But 'cause this is the Marvel Heroes, I was like, all right, I'm gonna give it a try. Other games have kind of pulled me in with that kind of genre. Well, when they had like a superhero theme wrapped around it, or Star Wars or something like that. So not too bad so far. I haven't had any major issues with those couple battles that I did, so I've been able to get through them. Obviously, it's probably going to get harder as I go along, but it's pretty interesting. I like how there's that you have that extra movement that you can do, like when you're actually fighting. So it's like you can move your character, kind of position it. Like maybe you can knock back an enemy into another enemy, or into like a power line, or a power transformer or something like that. So that's kind of cool that you can do that kind of stuff, and then like throw objects or just use the environment to your advantage, and it doesn't kind of count towards your card play, I guess is how they worded it. So it's pretty interesting so far. Like I said, a lot of like I was, playing like a Final Fantasy or something, but there's a lot of talking at the very beginning, so a lot of that. But that's not bad, and at least they kind of keep it more or less an engine. It's not like a separate 3D, totally 3D, CGI thing, so they kind of keep it all together. So it's kind of nice. Made my character. I got to that part. Obviously, not a ton of customization though. I was kind of surprised. I thought that'd be a little bit more robust, but I don't know if you.
Well, you'll see the customization as you get further into it.
Okay. That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go into your bedroom or whatever in the place, and that allows you to spend. Well, you don't have to go into the bedroom. You'll eventually get introduced to the menu. I mean, you have to upgrade componentry at your headquarters. You have to build a forge with Tony, and you have to build some type of magic thing with Doctor Strange, and that allows you to, then you can go into a menu and spend points and get different costumes and stuff for the characters and different outfits and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I figured, because when I was like walking around at one point, like I was picking up all this different stuff. I'm like, what the heck? Well, I haven't even seen this yet. But then, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in the menu that's like locked to me so far. So I figured something was going to come of that. So yeah, but yeah, so far enjoying it. I got that on the PC. Like I said, I got it on Steam. So I was able to, graphically, it looks fine. Like for some reason though, it put everything on medium for my machine, which I don't know why, but I just put it up to high and seemed to run fine. So I'm going to try to do ultra next. I didn't see any issues in high, so I don't know why it decided to do that, but it might just be a default thing or something. But I'll play around with that and see how it goes on ultra settings. But yeah, so far enjoying it, and we'll see in the coming weeks if that keeps up. Because like I said, I usually that kind of battling system kind of gets to me after a while, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a great game. I mean, for me personally, I really enjoy it. Are you playing with mouse and keyboard or controller?
Just mouse and keyboard. Yeah. Since it's not, I have to, move my guy around all the time. That should be fine. I don't think I'll have to use my controller for this kind of game.
All right, very cool. Over on PC, I double dipped this week and picked up F123. I'd already been playing on the Xbox. I unfortunately didn't spend enough time with it to break out my wheel and pedals. But was playing using the Thrustmaster eSwap X Pro controller, which I think I've talked to you guys a few times about, but it's basically kind of like a Microsoft controller Elite kind of version by Thrustmaster that has interchangeable parts on it. So I tried playing with the wheel module. That did not work very well. Just the tight corners that you have to pull in F1 just really don't make it amenable to like the little wheel that I have to wind up controlling with my thumb. So I just went back to the dual analog sticks, and that obviously worked a lot better. Looking forward to trying this out with wheel and pedals, though. I think that's where it will really come to life. Once I switched back to my analog control sticks, had no problems with the first round. I'm at this point, Bahrain used to be a relatively new track, but it's now a track that I'm very familiar with. It used to be one of my most disliked tracks, that in Abu Dhabi. But hey, congratulations. They've introduced other tracks since then that are now my least favorite, including, like I mentioned a few weeks ago, the Jeddah circuit in Saudi Arabia, which is, I'm just settling down that I just don't like the street circuits. Monaco is a nightmare. I always do horrible on that track. I've gotten a handle on Azerbaijan in the last few years, but we'll see how it goes this year. But played that on a system with a 3080 Ti, getting 160 anywhere from 100 to 165 frames per second, but definitely more on the 165, and with HDR on at 3440 by 1440p. So yeah, it looks great. Obviously, each year, they update the graphics on it and just slightly, and it does what most racing games do. It kind of serves as a showcase for your hardware, whether that be on Xbox or PlayStation 5 or PC. So I'm having a good time with it. You want to talk about Minecraft Dungeons?
Yeah, so little Diablo light. I think we've talked about this before, but yeah, I would jump back into Minecraft Dungeons. Like it's pretty much Diablo light. It's just the same kind of thing, going around and going through different dungeons and just picking up different armor and stuff. And actually, my son wanted to play this, which we haven't played this for a while, which is kind of nice because I've been actually kind of thinking of getting back into it. Finally, he wanted to, so I was like, all right, yep, let's do it. So we actually played couch co-op in this game, which I haven't. It's been a while since we've done anything couch co-op. Playing on the Xbox One X, and so it's not split screen, so you stay on the same screen. And obviously, if one of you gets too far away, it kind of just snaps you back to the other person. So it's not it's not too horrible. The screen stretches a little as you're getting farther away from each other, but it's not too much. So like I said, you just kind of get rubber band back to each other eventually. But yeah, we're just going through. I think we did only like 2, maybe 3 different dungeons the last time we had played it. And actually, I think my wife had played it also the last time we played it, last couple times. It was just the 2 of us, so we're just going through. Just doing the different dungeons, getting different armor. There's a bunch of updates that they've done since the last time we played, and so there's a bunch of different. There's like a merchant and stuff before that you're able to get stuff from. Now there's all these other kind of merchants and people you can buy stuff from, so it's a little different. There's a tower that you do where it's basically just like a wave thing where you jump. Each level you go through, just a bunch of enemies that come at you. You have to defeat them, and you just kind of keep working your way up the tower. And I guess at the very end, once you defeat that, that'll give you like the gear you can use on your character. So when you go into the tower initially, though, you're just like a default character. You're not using your normal character you use through the regular adventures. So, which is, I guess, is kind of fine, kind of like the season thing in Diablo. So we were going through that. I don't know if I have access to the DLC. I think that was actually separate, at least maybe some of it, because I know there's a bunch of DLC that came out for it, and I was kind of fiddling around with in like the adventure or the mission select screen. It looked like some of it was locked to me, but I didn't get a chance to click on it to see if it would actually open, or if maybe I have to go through some of the other or finish the regular story. I don't know, but I'll have to check that out because I thought some of it was free, but that's all right. I mean, it's probably fairly cheap if even if I have to buy it. So we'll go through that. And then I actually played a little bit by myself actually last night, just kind of going through the different others difficulties, because there's like, man, I think like 8 or 9, maybe it goes up to 10 different difficulties you can go through. So we've done like the kind of 2 middle ones on the first 2 or 3 dungeons, and then I think we did at least 2 other dungeons when we played, maybe a third one, and then I kind of did a couple other ones that we haven't even touched yet. So I was just going through those ones. So just rolling through it. Fairly simple, but I mean, it can get pretty hard. Even when I was playing by myself, even when I was playing with my son, there's just like a ton of enemies on screen. We're trying to kill everything, and we actually died a few times. I think you get like 4 or 5 lives, team lives. So you share the lives. So if you die, it kind of just counts down, it ticks down. So we beat the one boss. I think I don't even think we had any lives left. So it does get pretty hard. So at least on the boss sections. So having fun with that, and hopefully continue to play that in the coming week also.
All right, let's go ahead over to segment 2, talk about our main news headline stories for the week. First story up is OG Warzone being shut down. You want to cover that one, Tal?
Yeah, so Activision Blizzard, just my screen switched here, had announced this past week that on September 21st, they'll be shutting down Call of Duty Warzone, the original one. which actually was renamed to Warzone Caldera, which I believe was the last map change that they had done, was called Caldera. So development was ceased for that and shift over to the current Warzone 2. Anything that you bought in that Warzone, I think all transaction has stopped actually now, I believe. But anything you have bought previously, you could still use within Modern Warfare, Black Ops, Cold War, or Vanguard. So any of that season content, you'll still be able to access in those games. I'm assuming the multiplayer and single player. I don't know if you can do anything with single player, but at least the multiplayer.
For the content that was shareable with those other games, right? Because I mean, there is some Warzone content that was just Warzone content.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So
that you won't be able to access, and so you will have just lost it.
Right.
which I know sits well. I mean, I know it sits bad with some people. I mean, and I can't remember. Did Activision warn us about this like about a year ago?
I'm trying to remember if they did or not, because I know even when 2 came out, like they had shut down the original one, and they had said they were going to do that for a little bit. And I think that shutdown was longer than they expected, or longer than they had said. And then eventually it did come back. So, but I don't know if they ever actually said they were going to totally sunset the original Warzone. So I'd have to go back and look.
I thought that we talked about that on the show a year ago. I'll look it up. I know a year ago we at least talked about this as a possibility, and I said, I know it's not pleasant to hear, but I mean, we have to acknowledge that these live service games are eventually going to be decommissioned and go away, right? And so you're going to have some stuff. No live service game is going to be maintained and deployed in perpetuity, right? They're all going to have a life cycle, and they're all going to shut down. And I mean, granted, it's on the vendor, right? If they set you up to spend money, which Activision did, for you to spend money in like December of 2022 or March of 2023, and then turn around and announce later that they're going to shut the game down. So that's a thing. And I mentioned, it would probably be a little more consumer friendly for them to do things like, refund money or give you a partial refund or something for, content purchased, too close to the shutdown window, right? Some magical line in the sand, that they could be, a little more gracious about. But, so I don't know. I just don't know, how it's going to sit with people.
Yeah, originally came out in March of 2020, so 3 years. I mean, with the release of Warzone 2, I mean, you kind of had figured that they weren't going to have both games going at the same time, like these kind of big battle royale games. So, and they've done. I know with 2, they've done all these other kind of modes and stuff that you can play. I mean, they had different modes in the original one too, but they have the what's the kind of extraction shooter? Was it DMZ? I think is the I never played that one.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously they were probably going to shut down. Actually, my friends and I think maybe like a month or 2 ago, we actually tried to jump back into the original Warzone. We couldn't even connect like to the server. So I don't know if it just happened to be down maybe that weekend, but or if that was just a thing. And I thought I had tried later, like a few days later, and again it was still like just wasn't working. So I don't know if it was just maybe my system, or like I said, maybe something was going on with the servers, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think what we were told was that Warzone was not going to be shut down and would run alongside Warzone 2. I think that information started coming out last fall, like in November. And maybe there were some previous announcements as early as June that got refined and modified on the approach to November. But what they did say is they did indicate that, content that you bought in Warzone 1.0 was not going to carry over to Warzone 2. So, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's hard, right? I would love to say, I would love to say that a way to manage it as a consumer is keep your ear to the ground, and when you see things that make you suspicious, right? That a live service game is going to be shut down, like stop spending money. But the problem is like you have a game like Warframe, which has been in service for like what, over 10 years. I mean, it has achieved the thing that Destiny 2 claimed that it was going to do. You know, and they're still adding new content to it, you know, and it's such a strange thing, and people hardly ever talk about Warframe. But there it is. But then you have a game like this, which is really not that old comparatively, and here it goes getting shut down. So it's just weird.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a pretty big fan base for Warframe, but maybe there's a vocal fan base because I don't know what like the actual numbers. I don't think I've ever actually seen any numbers like of players, like I don't know, monthly. I guess I suppose it's or even yearly, but yeah, I mean that game just keeps going. So I don't know, it's weird. All right.
Yes, you want to go ahead and go on to the second story with the May game sales numbers?
Yeah. So U.S. games, and this is from GameIndustry.biz. U.S. game spending gets a 12% bump in May for the U.S. monthly charts. From the article here from Jeffrey Rousseau. Excuse me. U.S. consumer spending games reached $4 billion, a 12% increase year on year, according to the latest Circana data. Software reached $3.6 billion during the month, up 9%. Consumer spending for the month for hardware jumped 56% year on year as it amassed $338 million. Circana goes on to say this is the highest video game hardware spend for a May month since $427 million reached in May of 2008, which I'm actually kind of surprised. It was back in 2008. Nintendo Switch led for best-selling platform for dollar sales during the month. Spending hit an all-time high in May as unit sales were the second highest ever for the month, trailing behind May of 2020, which also, well, yeah, I guess 2020. That makes sense. Accessory spending, which I don't remember them. Did they always do accessory spending? I don't remember them having this kind of breakout of accessory spending before.
Yeah, they've addressed it. Yep.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's not in every article I've seen or different websites and stuff. It was up 14% year on year, totaling 159 million for May, with the PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge wireless controller leading that pack. In terms of unit sales, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Series 1 Amiibo character pack led that accessory throughout the month. And the top game was Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, debuted for May's best-selling game, followed by... Oh, actually, I'll go down the list here. Just real quick, for the top 10, they have 20 values to 10. So number 1, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Number 2, Hogwarts Legacy. Number 3, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. 4, Dead Island 2, still up there. Number 5, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, 6 is MLB The Show. Number 7, FIFA 23. Mario Kart 8 at number 8. Resident Evil 4 at number 9, which I'm assuming that's the remaster. And then Far Cry 6, number 10. And then one other notable on that list, number 20, Super Mario 3D World, which I believe is a 3DS game. So maybe that was just because the service was was about to be shut down. I'm assuming that's why that jumped up maybe in the top 20. Any notables in there from that you saw? Or any comments at all on the sales?
So one thing we should note on the chart, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom does not include digital sales. So it actually sold better than, whatever numbers were used to get it to first place. MLB The Show 23 does not include Xbox and Switch digital sales. Mario Kart 8 also digital sales not included, as that's Nintendo's normal thing. I'm not sure why the Xbox digital numbers aren't included then on MLB The Show. That may have been something driven by the Major League Baseball. I don't know who the publisher is on that. It's not the Players. It might be the Players Association. I'm not sure. But the business, the MLB business, or maybe the video entertainment part of MLB is the actual publisher of that game on Xbox. So they may have been the one to say, don't release the digital numbers. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate and Legend of Zelda, let me just stick to amplifying the chart. So Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Smash Brothers Ultimate and New Super Mario Brothers, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Super Mario 3D World, also digital sales not included. So the things in this whole report that jump out to me is, so first of all, consumer spending on hardware jumping by 56% year on year. The last quarter was a down quarter, particularly for Xbox. So super, and one of the things that I had said during last quarter was like, look, that's the quarter after the holidays. People start to kind of tighten their belts after Christmas. And then I said, watch next quarter, because that's when people get, at least in the US, get their tax return check and see them go spend more consumer money. And lo and behold, here we are. I think the most interesting thing here to talk about hardware is the PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge controller being the top selling peripheral for the month. I don't know who that controller is for or why people need it, because from my own use of the Elite controller V2 and those Thrustmaster controllers, which are $150, $200 controllers, like the only people who need that are people playing shooters, PvP shooters, multiplayer online PvP shooters, and people who are deep into racing games that require a lot of precision. I know Gran Turismo is big on the PlayStation, but not as big as their other first-party franchises. And I mean, other than Call of Duty, I don't know that there's a huge base that plays a lot of multiplayer PvP shooters. Now, I mean, we're going to talk about some of the revelations from the trial, and from the hearings, I should say, not a trial, after this. And obviously we found, numbers and demographics of, a pretty significant Call of Duty player base on PlayStation 5. So maybe all of them needed DualSense Edge wireless controllers. But maybe it's a matter of there not being any other peripheral that's like new and that there's a lot of FOMO for. But since this thing's been announced, I've never understood who it's for. And the other thing is all of the, how do I want to term it? All of the wailing and gnashing of teeth and Sturm and Drang that there was about the battery life on the controller was apparently not enough to keep it from being the number one best-selling peripheral for the quarter.
Did that? Oh no, it actually came out in January. Okay, originally the Edge. So yeah, it's interesting that months later it's number one, and it's not like there's any like major games I don't think coming out. Or that
it was hard to find when it first came out. So like this is the first quarter that it's probably been in really healthy supply.
Yeah.
Game wise, I think the first most notable thing is all of the Nintendo titles that are in the top 20. They have one MLB The Show is another one that would count for them. That's 2. Mario Kart 8 is 3. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which just means that before Tears of the Kingdom came out, lots of people ran out and got an additional copy of Breath of the Wild to get caught up.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's probably a lot of new people that maybe never got it. From the numbers that we'll see, or if we talk about that side of the Nintendo, which I didn't realize 126 million units is basically what aroundish is what they're at right now. And I'm assuming that's worldwide. That's just, I guess a lot of people still want to play Zelda. And once again, no digital sales for all these titles. So,
right.
And which kind of, I guess, poo-poos my Super Mario World 3D theory there, because that's not digital. I thought that was because of the shutdown of the eShop, but obviously it's going to be a physical title, so I don't know.
So 20 titles here, 8 of them are Nintendo titles. That is amazing. In a quarter where the only new thing that they put out was Tears of the Kingdom, but kind of, Moth to the Flame. MLB The Show selling well. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate coming out of nowhere. Again, an older title, like leaping to resurgence. I don't really understand that. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet being up there. So it's just super interesting and impressive. Jedi Survivor being at the top of the list when it still hasn't really received all the performance patches that it should. Dead Island 2 hanging on is good to see. Far Cry 6, again, a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth and Sturm and angst about Ubisoft titles and how they've driven that open world kind of pattern into the ground. And yet, here they are at number 10 on the chart. So, strong indications of what is resonating with, U.S. consumers and a handful of surprises. Anything that surprised you?
Madden still being up there. Number 15 is still kind of interesting, just because, it's been quite a while now since the end of the season, and maybe that's why, I don't know. Maybe
Well,
people didn't
is
get enough.
and I'm sorry, I don't follow sports well enough. Did we have the draft this quarter?
I think, yeah, I think it was actually. Now that I think about it, I think, yeah, I'm not big into it either, but I think you're right. It might have been this past month or so.
Yeah. So yeah. So we did have the draft this quarter. So yeah, and we normally see a resurgence in Madden NFL in the quarter that they have the draft. So yeah, so good things. So I guess we want to talk about the hearing findings. I was going to suggest I didn't get a chance to mention both the show, but I would suggest that on the hearing findings we just cover what was discovered this week. So the GameIndustry.biz has Thursday and Friday of last week, but I would leave those out and suggest we just talk about what was discovered Tuesday forward. Oh, so there wasn't nobody claimed that news story on the agenda, but do you want to cover it? Or I can cover it either way.
Oh yeah, if you want to cover it, I didn't
Okay.
read it yet. Sorry, that must have been DB's then. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. No problem. So obviously the hearing went on this week where lots of additional information kind of came out. A lot of how the sausage is made, so to speak. I don't know that I can cover everything that went there in any kind of sensible manner, and I don't really want to talk about the internal nitty gritty, legal findings or everybody's opinion on that because we just don't know how the judge is going to rule. I will say, from a briefing perspective, the way the hearing wound up is I think closing arguments were heard, I think Thursday. The judge told them to submit any remaining write-ups by Friday at 5 p.m. And then indicated that she would then start reviewing that information to make her decision. What she committed to was that she would not take 2 to 3 months to make her decision. She did not make a promise, but it seemed to indicate that she was planning on arriving at a decision and calling them back to issue it before the July 18th deadline, at which point the $3 billion breakup payment has to be paid. So however it goes down, we should find out, I would think, relatively soon. I will say the other comment she made was she complimented the FTC's legal team for keeping up. Specifically mentioned that she understood that they did not have access to the same resources as in hotshot lawyers, I think was the term she used as the multi-trillion-dollar company, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the FTC has lawyers, but those are lawyers that are on, government payroll, which, pays less than, what people make out in commercial. So we'll start going through these. I'll try and keep an eye on time, but we got some time to kind of wade through these. And like I said, I'm just going to kind of go through these at random. So findings from Tuesday, June 27th, the PlayStation boss was initially less concerned about Microsoft owning Activision as he hoped Sony would still reach an agreement with both parties. But an email from Phil Spencer on August 26, 2002 really set alarm bells ringing, although the content has not been discussed. So what happened in this exchange, as far as I remember it, it's just a lot of information coming out. This is about Jim Ryan's, an email from Jim Ryan, initially an internal Sony email, where Jim Ryan indicated that, hey, this is bad, I wish it hadn't happened, but we'll be okay, more than okay, and actually didn't suspect that this was an exclusivity play by Microsoft. But then in later emails, there were discussions back and forth between he and Spencer, where Spencer talked about keeping PlayStation or keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation for some period of time. I think maybe the original deal was 5 years. And then there was some other back and forth, but Ryan's response appeared to indicate that not only did he want to settle up on that, but he also wanted to talk about Bethesda titles. But Ryan went into a very long description, a very lengthy description of how whatever agreement they came to needed to fit and maintain the PlayStation brand and the expectations from its player base. Basically, it seemed to me that he was alluding that, basically the PlayStation player base kind of expects to be protected and expects to be kind of have their prestige, I guess, kind of maintained, and felt that seemed to indicate to me, and this is my interpretation, that any kind of slight towards them, was not in keeping with the brand. So any comments on those things, Tal?
No, not right now.
Okay, so I didn't make much. There's a lot of things that came out of here that a lot of people have made much ado about, and I don't really make much ado about them. Right? Both Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan's responsibilities are to protect shareholder equity and to maximize the return on investment from shareholders. They're both looking to have outcomes from this deal that are most favorable to their own company. Any outcome which is favorable to the other company is their competitor and doesn't serve their own best interests. One of the things that I did was, I think a lot of people, there's been a lot of discussion, about, Microsoft isn't going to take Call of Duty exclusive, and PlayStation is claiming that the hit from Call of Duty will be a bigger deal than it is. So one of the things I did is I went and ran numbers, and I bounced these numbers off a good friend of mine who's a financial director with a corporation in Australia, and also has done a lot of government contract work. And I ran some numbers, and so what we also got out of this trial was that, I keep saying trial hearing, was that Call of Duty made $1.5 million on the PlayStation platform last year. Well, $1.5 billion out of their gross revenue, which I think is about $28.3 billion from the gaming division, is only about something like, I forget my exact calculation, but there's only something like 3.6 to 3.9% of their total revenue. If you take the Microsoft revenue, which was about $16.3 billion in 2022, and combine that with the Activision revenue, which was about $7.5 billion last year, you're at 23.8, and 1.5 billion out of that is something like the high 5%, like 5.8, 5.9%. So at the end of the day, an argument could be made, first of all, for Microsoft, there really isn't that much of a hit to them if they were to take Call of Duty off the PlayStation platform. There was kind of a loud outcry from the gaming community about how much money was involved, but I'm like, okay, but when you consider that against the overall percentages, it really isn't that much. Hey, Newtonian in the chat, thanks so much. We appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by and swinging into the show. Didn't get the notification. I apologize about that. I would definitely say, I don't know if you have notifications turned on Twitter, but I definitely put up an announcement for the show just as we're going live. So hopefully you'll be seeing that. But so an argument could be made. Microsoft's claims that it would gain nothing by taking Call of Duty exclusive really are a bit overblown. By the same token, you could also say pulling Call of Duty off of PlayStation really isn't that much of a hit to Sony, and therefore their complaints that it would be such a debilitating blow are maybe overblown. So I think the key thing for us to extract out of this is, clearly for Sony and clearly for Microsoft, there's some greater strategy elements at play in terms of what the impact would be from either of those moves, from that move to either party. And I think a lot of their, a lot of their lawyering, right, is about something more than just the revenue, right? The revenue really doesn't make that big of a deal to either company. So, another discovery that came out Tuesday, Ryan reiterated that Sony believes Microsoft intends to use Call of Duty to disadvantage PlayStation, and that a portion of Sony's US players who solely or primarily spend their gaming time on Call of Duty would be at risk of abandoning their console for Xbox. Numbers that came out from this aren't listed right here in the article, they may be somewhere, but I forget what it is exactly, but I think about 1 million players, and the PlayStation 4 player base is, the estimation that I've been making is somewhere between 120 and 150 million players, based on their sales of PlayStation 5, which is 38 million, and assuming that not every single one of those people got rid of their PlayStation 4 and that there's some overlap. They're somewhere between 120 and 150. But about 1 million of those players played nothing but Call of Duty last year, and about I want to say another 6 million, I think, spent 70% of their time playing Call of Duty. So again, that's a big number, but in comparison to the whole, it really isn't that big of a number. Now, I'm sure there's another several million players. Let's just assume it's another 7,000, right? So say 14,000 players at a minimum who play, who plays Call of Duty in like stratified tiers down below that percentage. But the point is Ryan voiced concerns that, Xbox was going to do something. There's been a lot of pushback on the notion. Newtonian says in the chat, I got the bell. I think my kids mess with my sleep mode on my phone. Well, that is definitely always a danger. I'm sorry, I got a gnat or something flying around in here. Many people have kind of poo-pooed on this notion that, Microsoft would never put a less performant version of Call of Duty on the Xbox. But there's a couple problems with that perspective. I think number one, what came out of this was notification. I think one of the first things that dropped this week was that, and I can't remember if we talked about it last week or not, but PlayStation was not going to give Activision a PlayStation 6 dev kit the year that the PlayStation 6 is coming out, if Activision was acquired by Microsoft, which I said make perfect sense. There's just no way. I think we did talk about this last week. There's just no way that you could feel like you had guarantees that if you put a dev kit inside Activision, that there would never be any leakage of information to another Xbox employee who theoretically you wouldn't want to have access to that technical data. So, things are going to go on shared drives, documents are going to be written, design artifacts are going to be out there, et cetera. But the one thing that I wanted to highlight is, and one of the other revelations we got this week was that from Kotick's testimony, no one at Activision was consulted by Microsoft when they made their claims that Call of Duty was going to go onto the Nintendo Switch or some other Nintendo platform, and it was also going to go to the cloud. So the concern I raised with that is, first of all, no technical expert, therefore, no domain expert who is familiar with the Call of Duty architecture, either in tactical source code or as it's deployed. No one who's familiar with its operational architecture in terms of maintaining the, its deployment and its kind of its DevOps footprint, right? Was consulted about what is the technical feasibility of doing that and how much of that is an increase in scope. So right now, today, we don't know how many additional people they would have to have in order to actually do that. We don't know what the total level of effort is. We don't know that the source code that's written for that game to be deployed on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, which is an x86 architecture, we don't know if any of that can be ported to ARM architecture. We don't know if that's going to be a total code rewrite. We don't know anything about what that means. And so as you add scope to any given development, and we don't know how that would be managed. Would that come out of an Activision organization? Would they add another studio or two studios or multiple teams to the array of 9 to 11 studios that already put together Call of Duty? We don't know what that looks like. And unfortunately, particularly in this generation, Microsoft doesn't have a track record of really effectively managing that. We have the stories of Halo and how there were personnel issues there with the contractors and the total numbers of employees that were there and as employees were leaving, et cetera. So there hasn't been a good representation or trend indicating Microsoft's ability to manage scope, particularly of very large scale products. And this is a larger scale product that they've now committed to than anything else that runs inside Xbox. So again, this notion that nothing bad would ever be delivered to Sony, it's a huge unknown because we don't know as you add scope to that team and now have the problem where they're potentially not going to get a PS6 dev kit, that they're going to be able to maintain the quality of the version that goes to the PlayStation 6. And that's not to say that they're doing it intentionally. I think that's part of the problem is people keep talking about how, whether this would happen or whether this would not happen as if it's intentional. But software engineers, software developers don't get to say, I'm deploying to this platform and not that platform. They don't get to say I'm pushing the deploy button and shipping the game now. The bean counters and the financial managers, right, and the overseers are the ones who get to make those calls and those shots. So while no developer may have the intention of delivering a bad version to PlayStation, that may inevitably be the outcome because there's going to be constrained budget, staff, and schedule. So I don't know, any comments on that, Tal?
No, I mean, yeah, it's more of like I guess I don't want to say victim of circumstance, but it just stuff happens. It's a kind of a side thing, or not side thing, but like a thing that happens where like, oh hey, by the way, we have all these other systems we got to get throw out there too, and something's going to happen either way. And obviously, like we've said in the past, is it's a lot harder than just the copy and paste. There's all kinds of different things that they got to do, and even with the online game or like a GeForce Now and all these other companies that they made deals with. Like, I mean, are they actually going to deliver like 100% like what they say they are going to do? So we're just going to have to wait and see.
Going on to day 4. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and with the Switch part of it, I think there was a comment here when I was reading through the article, and it might be on the next day or like some of the other internal documents that they got, but saying that maybe if they do go onto the Switch, I think it was something that Kodak said that they were actually, I guess, already planning on doing at some point, even before all the deals were made, the 10-year deal that Microsoft had made.
Well, what he said was that he regretted not deploying to the Switch, given how well it has sold, that he didn't think it was going to be a big hit. But again, we just don't know what that would have looked like, right? I mean, quite honestly, probably the smartest thing to have done on the Switch would have been to put Call of Duty Mobile on it. Yeah, since that does run on ARM architecture, and since there is already an existing version, and since that would allow Switch players to be match made with people playing on mobile, which is what happens when you play Fortnite on Switch.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because like I was saying in the past, when they did have a Call of Duty, I think it was the Wii. I think it was Modern Warfare 3, maybe. I don't think that was like cross-platform. I think it was just its own thing at the time, I believe.
Yeah, and I don't think it was the exact same version. Yeah, it was
something different. Yeah.
And it had multiplayer, but as far as I remember, it had like old school multiplayer, like 8-on-8, right, on its platform. It wasn't like the thing that it is now.
Yeah, definitely.
Newtonian chat mentions, how have y'all's weekend been so far? Don't want to derail, just showed up late. So I think, as we mentioned at the start of the show, mine's been fine. Tao has bad allergies today. I don't. Tao hasn't. I haven't been out in the yard. Maybe Tao has.
Just the air quality, as we've seen this past week, has been bad. So
yeah, that'll do you. I have been indoors most of the time, but I would also say my air quality hasn't been great because my accomplishment this weekend is I had a major clog in my basement toilet, which I think takes some weird piping bends as it exits out of the out of my downstairs bathroom to go work. So I actually spent $100 to get a power snake. And from 3 hours of off and on troubleshooting, I was able to finally clear it. But I was very scared that I was going to have to not only call a plumber, but that the plumber was going to have to come over here and actually take the commode like off of its seal to get the clog cleared. So it worked out okay. On day 4, we got a reveal of the thing that I mentioned. Document also revealed that 1 million PlayStation users only play Call of Duty, and estimated the series accounted for $800 million in Sony's 2021 U.S. revenues and 1.5 billion globally. It also suggested this year's Call of Duty is the last of PlayStation's exclusive marketing contract with Activision, which that last part. So we already kind of talked about player numbers and revenue. That didn't surprise me because I believe that we already knew or heard rumors that those deals were typically in 5-year chunks. And so knowing off of kind of the E3 evidence that kind of showed when the marketing deal was re-upped that this was about the time frame where we were thinking that 5-year marketing deal would be going away.
What they're talking about here is like the they're exclusive for like maps and stuff like that, right? Skins and all that.
Well, it's also weird. Well, like in the times of E3, the first thing that marketing deal really meant is that was the E3 stage that the new Call of Duty would be shown on, right?
Okay.
With any type of gameplay demo and trailer and all that kind of stuff. So we were kind of programmed and conditioned to always expect that the new Call of Duty trailer would be at the PlayStation E3 show. That seems to have gone away since they've gone to PlayStation showcases and states of play and that kind of thing. But yes, what this refers to is all the perks that PlayStation players get, right? Which is they get additional maps and LTEs, LTMs that don't go to the other platforms until the following year, which is always kind of goofy since they wind up getting them just as the new Call of Duty is coming out, where people typically stop playing the old Call of Duty. But it's also the fact that they get 25% XP bonus when they are playing in a PlayStation party. On the PSN, it refers to the fact that they get a 1 day early head start on double XP weekends. And I would assume that it also goes to the fact that while everybody else on PC and Xbox get 10 custom loadout slots, that PlayStation players get 12. So I think that's most of what's in that marketing agreement. I mean, there may be other things that I'm missing. And what also came out of this was that Call of Duty Mobile is really the big earner. And how hopefully we'll find some additional data as I go through this article, but because I can't recall it right off the top of my head. But I want to say that Call of Duty Mobile, I want to say $900-something million was the figure that I saw in my head, which makes as a single platform makes it the biggest earner, because Sony's additional revenues or Activision's additional revenues, an additional $700 million that's scattered across PC and Xbox, and the remainder of PlayStation revenues outside of the U.S. I'm sorry. The additional revenue, I had to go crunch these numbers. So the additional $2 billion of revenue, because Call of Duty franchise makes about $3.5 billion, I think, annually. Those are scattered across the other platforms. So as a single platform, when you look at Call of Duty Mobile, and I just talk about mobile being as a platform, obviously it's on both iOS and Android, is one of their biggest money earners. So this yet again shows, right, what I was saying, where the net impact of taking Call of Duty off PlayStation isn't really that big, particularly if you consider that Microsoft would be retaining the mobile revenue and the PC revenue. And obviously it's Xbox revenue as well. And I think I'll just maybe hit a couple highlights from day 5, Thursday. The commission also drew attention to the potential impact on competition in the cloud gaming space, suggesting a Microsoft-owned Activision would lead to a world where instead of having content available, it's all just Game Pass, and maybe Sony has PlayStation Plus, and those two suck up all the content, and that's it. I think one of the things a lot of people have been saying, which is about this cloud market, well, it's not a market yet, so you can't really make any type of ruling or enforce regulation on a market that doesn't exist yet. Well, the market doesn't exist really because there's no other player in it other than Microsoft. We talk about Boosteroid, and there are some other small-time kind of European vendors who are trying to push the thing. But also remember, all those vendors, because they're not cloud infrastructure providers, are all going back to either Microsoft, AWS, or Google. Or GCP. Maybe there's some going to Tencent, which is the 4th largest cloud provider in the world. But I think one of the points that I've been trying to make on this cloud market is that, Microsoft, and I don't have the tweet up, but Microsoft is a company that has 23 game studios, has a console platform, has an ongoing software business as a publisher. They're also the number 2 cloud service provider in the world and have a vast amount of resources. So they're really the only competitor on the planet right now that has every single one of those arrows in its quiver already. And so what you're really talking about is now adding one of the top 10 companies that make 65% of the gaming industry revenue and putting them together with the company that already owns the cloud infrastructure. So one of the things that seems to get bypassed is that any other company that's going to make a cloud play today would have to pay for its cloud infrastructure, which Microsoft does not because they already own it. So there are some things here that I think definitely have impacts on what the calculus is of the competitive market from anybody trying to go to cloud. I've been in one other conversation where the suggestion was, well, if it's not one of the major cloud service providers, then no one's going to go to the cloud. So you may as well just go ahead and pass this merger so that Microsoft can do it. And I question whether or not that's the right choice that should be made, right? If you're saying that the only people who could make a cloud gaming play would be Amazon or Google, Alphabet, Google, then, again, why would they bother when Google has already attempted and failed? And the only way really today that either one of them could make that push, Apple, I guess I would put it out there, even though it doesn't own cloud infrastructure now, they could certainly build it out. They have the financial resources too. The only way that those three companies could make a play would be to acquire another major game publisher, which sends you down the road of consolidation. So, it just leaves various questions out to kind of be answered. So I don't know. Any comments about that and any of the discovery from Thursday?
No, yeah, I had. I don't think it was on this day. I think it was one of the earlier days where they were mentioning the cloud services and how that, like I said, it's gonna impact it from I think it was 2025 to 2035 or something like that. It's like, wow, it's way in the future. I get it. Companies have to forecast obviously way in the future like that. But I mean, who knows if Xbox has Game Pass, and I don't know if it was in this article, it might have been one of the other articles I've read that, and they're kind of trying to downplay it might have even been Sarah Bond or something mentioning how not a lot of people actually in the whole grand scheme of the Xbox's ecosystem, not a lot of people use actually the cloud service. So I don't know, it's just weird. You have now, I've been in a corporate environment now for a while, and people have to, like I said, people have to project, far out, way far out in advance. But it just kind of boggles the mind sometimes that when you talk these numbers.
Yep. So I think we'll close it off with that. We could go on talking about the M&A for a year, and it really wouldn't matter because it's in the hands. I think the last thing I'll say is just. I think another thing that people have missed and maybe don't understand is, but the hearing is about a preliminary injunction, which I equate to it's a bail bond hearing, right? It's the judge is deciding if she's going to allow bail to be set or not, and in a bail bond hearing, even if whether bail is set or not, it doesn't matter whether or not the person's going to trial. The person's still going to trial, and so as of today, whether a PI is granted or not, Microsoft still goes to an administrative law judge hearing in August with the FTC, unless the FTC decides that they're going to no longer press charges and they're going to remove their lawsuit, which they could do if the judge decides she's not granting a PI. All that's a ton of what ifs, but just today, the procedural path is that the judge decides PI or no PI. That allows Microsoft and Activision to go ahead and merge or not based on them assuming their own risk, which they might do because of the $3 billion breakup fee. And then they still go to see the administrative law judge in August. It's just a matter of whether or not they show up as one company or two separate companies. So there we are with that. Let's round out the evening as we always do, talking about actual video games. So, on to segment 3, our regular rundown and round robin. I have been playing games, but unfortunately I just haven't played a lot of new things this week other than like I said, F1 23 on PC. I started off the beginning of the week coming out of the double XP weekend playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, as much of our news segment was about tonight on PlayStation 5. So season 4 has started. One thing I'll say about Infinity Ward and Activision Greater and this whole like monstrous production pipeline of 9, 10, 11 studios, what I really appreciate is I am not a huge fan of the Modern Warfare UI style. I think we've talked about that. I don't like the Black Ops like gunsmith screen would take all the components and list them vertically. And as a list, it was just a lot easier for me to go through and configure weapons, I always felt. The Modern Warfare style is to display it in this weird landscape layout where the components are arrayed around the weapon. And so as I go through my weapons configuration as I do, I have to scroll around the whole screen and look at all of it. It's just more difficult, I feel, for me to manage. It's a small quibble, but it's the thing I like, right? The thing I like and, what I'm conditioned to prefer. I will say, though, I get that it was a monumental effort to change the gunsmith approach and the armory approach that they took on with this version of Call of Duty, to come up with the weapons platform approach and have you change out the primary chassis and that completely send like one weapons platform down a completely separate branch. I get it and I like it, but I will say what I see from gaming development studios in general is when it's a live service game, I see them spend too little effort at refining the UI and putting in the quality of life stuff that makes things better for us gamers, allowing us to spend less time in prep and get into gaming, right? And I feel like this was an inefficiency with Halo Infinite. So I do like that the small incremental changes that I see in just getting and maneuvering around the UI and presenting information that makes, handling all that weapons configuration different or better. But I saw a lot of that with season 4. I've seen a lot of that in the battle pass layout, which in general I still don't like in comparison to Black Ops Cold War, but I will say it is improved from the thing they initially deployed with. And so, that's, something to be recognized, I guess. I don't know, Tao, have you gotten back to Modern Warfare 2 at all?
No, actually, no, I never picked up the normal Modern Warfare 2. I just picked up the Warzone 2 section of it, so I never actually played the game itself. So,
gotcha. A lot more modes, a few more modes have been introduced that I do have enjoyed playing. There is a grind, which is now basically kill confirmed, but instead you pick up the tags and hold them, and then you have to get to one of 2 drop-off points that are placed on the map. So it makes it a little different tactically because sometimes people will camp the drop-off points and try and take you out there. On offense, people will sprint towards those drop-off points, and even if they sacrifice themselves in getting to the drop-off point, they just get to the drop-off point to make the score. So it makes it pretty interesting. I will also say they have returned... what's the name of the map? I can't really remember the name of that, but it's a Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I think it's a Modern Warfare 2 map, like 2, the number 2, not the Roman number 2, but it's the one that's a it's a map supposedly like in the Middle East, but it's like a compound where there's a big central courtyard. And there are some staircases around the edges of it, and some and a balcony level, so people can go up on the balcony. There's a couple staircases. I think you go up one staircase and you can cut into the balcony level. There's another way to kind of go up. There's gates, I think, on either side of the map, so you can't just transit straight through. You have to kind of go up and over. So I don't know if people remember that map, but it was nice to see that map come back. So, Newtonian in the chat says, Dead Cells PS5 version got a release for free. Love that game and like popping trophies again. Yeah, and I have not played Dead Cells. I know it's popular, and I know a lot of people like it. And I always say, play more indies. Gamers should. Second on my playlist is I went back really briefly to God of War Ragnarok on the PlayStation 5. To continue playing through that. That's a game I know I should have spent more time playing, but had to kind of get back into the combat and relearn some of the controls and stuff, but had a good time. Able to play that now on the 43-inch Aorus display. So that has, all the Gen 9 bells and whistles with VRR and ALLM. So it's good finally getting to play that on a set that fully supports, all the next gen bells and whistles. And the last thing that I've been playing is I spent some time this weekend and some money playing Forza Horizon 5 on the Xbox. I have a Thrustmaster TR300. I think it's our T300 RS. So it's the servo motor one where you can swap the wheel handles out. I have that for the PlayStation 5 and for the PC. I went ahead and because I've been playing so many racing games on Xbox, I went ahead and bought another Thrustmaster wheel and pedal set. Cheaper version. I just bought the Thrustmaster TMX, which is like their entry level version. But I also, because you have to fight that wheel so much, and I just clamped it to the desk, but that's the desk where I have the 43-inch Aorus display and the actual Xbox is on that desk. And I dislike seeing how much I was thrashing the display and the desk around. So I went ahead and spent another $100 to get a wheel and pedal stand, which is going to allow me to situate it kind of right in front of the desk, and play it on a platform that's a little more stable, I'm hoping. Because the Thrustmaster TMS is also, maybe arguably a little wonky in Forza Horizon 5, I wanted to also start trying it out on some other racing games. I also played some Dirt Rally 2.0 this weekend, where I will say the wheel and pedals performs better. Although I did not personally perform better as a racer in Dirt Rally 2.0, so that I need to revisit and kind of brush up on. But, I mean, it's nice having a wheel and pedals. I love Thrustmaster devices and peripherals, but, I was just talking about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and how much time you have to kind of spend in prep, managing your loadouts and stuff. Like, I really have to dig for the proper settings for each game with a Thrustmaster controller, whether I'm doing that on PC or Xbox. I haven't actually used the 300 RS with the PlayStation 5 yet, but it's a lot of work, right? Finding good websites with good settings, and then even when you find settings, you then have to further fine tune it for your own preference. So there's a guy, Brian Backinen. I think that's his last name. I'm not positive, but I usually look at his website for his setups. But on Forza Horizon 5, I still had to go in and mess with steering linearity and steering saturation and some other things that were just better to my driving style than what I found on the website. So, but I've been having a good time. Racing wheel and pedals always makes any racing game feel like it's worth the value of twice as much as you paid for the game itself. So it's always a plus and a good time. You have, I guess you moved your Xbox One X down to the basement, is that right? Or to the game room next to your PC?
No, I haven't done that yet. It's still at my normal living room TV. Yeah.
Okay, so your last game you're going to brief us out on, you have been playing on that X upstairs, I guess.
Yeah. Before I get to that, two quick questions for God of War. Was that just like part of your rotation that you went back to it, or you just kind of felt like going back to it?
Yeah, I was supposed to play. I think I was supposed to try and get back into Call of Duty Mobile or some one other system that I was looking at playing, and I just wasn't feeling it. I just wanted to play something on my PlayStation 5. I think it was a night where it was like late at night, and I just didn't feel like overly monkeying around with breaking out a system that I hadn't played in a while. So God of War Ragnarok was just what I went back to on the PlayStation 5.
Nice. And for your wheel and pedals, do you have a separate gear shift, or is it just like on the wheel, like behind the wheel?
Yeah, I tend to use the paddle flippers as gear controls. But yeah, I haven't plunked down for the gear shift. But I'm going to see how the setup is with this stand that comes by, which has a gear shift seat for it on the stand. And if I like the stand overall enough, I may go ahead and pony up for a gear shifter knob.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering because I remember when I was asking you about the wheel and pedals because my son wanted one for it was for Forza actually, Forza 5. That one just has the paddles in the back too. And then I was looking at the stands and I saw like I had like a little separate thing on the side with the gear shift holder.
Yeah, the other thing I got to check is, so like I said, it's the Thrustmaster TMX that I went with. It is compatible with the TH3PA pedals, which are a nicer and heavier pedal set. It's the metal pedals. It came with just the little plastic pedal set, which is fine. It's serviceable. But I just realized that I don't think that pedal set is specific to a platform. So I think I can pair that. I think I could use that TH3PA pedal set with the Xbox wheel, because the interface is between the wheel and the pedal set, not between the wheels, not between the pedals at the console. So I may be able to use a nicer set of pedals with that wheel, but we'll see. So rounding out the evening, the game you've been playing on the One X.
Yeah, so I jumped back into PUBG of all games. It's been a long time since I played it, actually probably a couple of years. And I think it was earlier this year. I was actually wanting to go play it, but I had to go back through the whole training section of it for some reason. I don't know if that was something that happened when it went free to play last year. I think in January in 2022, it went free to play. And I don't know if it was because of that. And then it was asking me all kinds of hey, do you have I forgot the name of the publisher or the website you have to go to now to create an account for them. And it's oh, I don't have any of this. What's going on? So at that point, I started to go a little bit through the training section, and I was just I don't want to go. I didn't have time. It was kind of super late at night, and I was I just want to play. So fast forward to a couple months ago, and I finally finished the training. And then now I was able to actually jump into just regular games. So I did a few games, actually got some wins, and I was just doing casual mode because it was casual and ranked. So I was just playing through the casual mode, and I'm not sure. I know in the mobile version they have bots. I'm not sure in the normal game, the console version, if they do or not. I'm assuming probably, but because it seemed pretty easy, the few games that I did play, or the wins I should say at least that I played. I was definitely playing with real people because I could see it has the little symbol of a PC or Xbox or whatever, or just a generic controller, or if it's a PS5 or something. So I was obviously playing with real people, but I don't know if some of the enemies might have been bots, kind of like in Fortnite, they do the same thing. But I got a few wins. It's just trying to get back into the flow of things because it's obviously a lot different than Modern Warfare or Fortnite and stuff, because you actually have to go through and find attachments and put the attachments on the guns, and you can switch them around if you want to, and so it's a little bit more involved. So I was trying to get back in the swing of things, and the one thing I do like about PUBG is when you're running around the world and you can switch between first and third person, which is really nice actually. And I've probably mentioned this back when I was playing it before, but so when I'm going around trying to scavenge for stuff, and I'm in a house, or at least in a house or in a building, I like to go into that first person mode so I can kind of just get a better view, or kind of a little more. I can if I see a gun it's an Uzi or something, I don't want to pick it up an Uzi, so I can just go past it and stuff like that. And then when I'm traveling around the world, I'll do third person so I can look all around me. But you can also hold down I think it's the right shoulder button while you're running or walking, and you can spin around the camera while you're still going forward, which is actually kind of nice. So you can, and as far as I've seen, you can't do that in any of the other games like Warzone or Fortnite and stuff like that. So it's kind of just trying to see what's around you, and if there's any enemies coming behind you, which happens a lot, obviously, you get shot from behind. So it's kind of a nice feature. But got through. Been playing that. I want to play some more this coming week. A little bit. I'll be going on vacation soon, but hopefully I'll get to play it a little bit more and get some more chicken dinners, as they call the victories in PUBG. So it does, even though it probably takes around the same amount of time, for a whole game, a half hour-ish or so, 25 minutes. It always seems long. I don't know why it always seemed longer in PUBG. Maybe it's just because the world's so bigger. You don't get those interactions as much, in say in Fortnite or even Warzone, even though Warzone I think is a little bit bigger map than Fortnite, but it always just seems like it just takes forever for the game to go to get on with it and to even end. But it's about, like I said, it's about the same amount of time. But I'm enjoying it. I like it, and I'm gonna keep going on with it for the next week or so.
So it could be incorrect, but I want to say from what I've seen of your playlist recently, you have not been playing a lot of shooters. I mean, of the shooters that are available, is there any reason like why you decided to go back to PUBG out of all the ones that you played before?
I don't know. Like I mentioned, like I tried it when I tried to do it a few months ago. It was just like a weird sudden urge that I wanted to go back and play PUBG. And maybe it was more because it is that kind of slower pace. And obviously it depends too where you land. Like obviously you can see where people are landing. If you land with them, you obviously you're going to get into fights right away. But if you land even just like even when the places are kind of close together, they're still kind of far apart. So you have time to kind of loot and stuff. And I think I kind of just like that slower pace. And even like for Fortnite and even Warzone, sometimes it's like you'll get into interactions like right away. Like even if you do try to go off the beaten path, people are still going to be there or pretty close. So I think I just wanted a little change of pace a little bit for my battle royal games as of late. So.
And are you playing? And I'm not familiar with all the PUBG modes. Are you playing solos, or are you playing with other people, or with randoms, or what?
Yeah, I'm just doing Rams. I always play teams. I think there's only squads, so only a squad of 4. I think maybe in ranked there might be. I think there is multiple. You can do like duos or maybe even trios, but I know for duos for sure. But yeah, when I played PUBG, I always just played in a squad. I didn't like. It seemed to even take even more time if I played solo. So I always play squads.
Okay, and do you have I can't remember. Do you have an Elite controller? Do you have a V1?
I have a V1. Yeah, I never got the 2 yet.
Okay, and is that what you're using to play on PUBG, or?
No, I was just playing with a regular Xbox One controller. It was a newer one, but I mean, still, it's just a regular one.
Gotcha. What is up next for you on your playlist this week? I know you said you're going to have PUBG in the rotation, but any plans for anything else?
Yeah, along with Midnight Suns. So during the Steam sale, I picked up Project Zomboid, which is kind of like survival zombie game, but it's like an isometric view. So I had heard good things about it. It's actually a fairly old game, I think. I forgot early teens, I think 20 teens that it actually came out. But I picked that up. And I'll play that sometime this week also, along with PUBG, and hopefully get a little bit more time with Midnight Suns also.
All right, and for me, I'm planning on going back to Age of Wonders 4 and continuing that campaign on PC. I am also planning on digging into PC Game Pass and got my sights set on trying Mech Warrior 5 again. When I tried this before, and I think I talked to Swiss about it, it was just a little too light and floaty for me in comparison to kind of the big burly kind of mechs that I had been used to controlling in Mech Warrior 3. But I do see that the game has added HOTAS support, and I've been trying to focus on, my vehicular simulations this year and breaking out all my peripherals for that. So I'm planning on trying to hook up my Thrustmaster T16000 flight control system, which has the throttle and weapons control system left handle to it. So I'm planning on trying to hook that up. I really want to try it out with I have the T16000 with the throttle handle, but I also have a T16000 set up with a left-handed and right-handed joystick. So I kind of wanted to try that, but I think I'm going to start off just trying to see if I can get the joystick and throttle to work and see how well that's supported. Supposedly it's supported, but as is the case with each of these games, we'll see if the reality matches the advertising. So that's going to do it for us tonight for our show this week. We need to verify everybody's schedule, but I believe this week we'll actually be recording Thursday night, and DBQ Hams will be the guest for that. Or not the guest, but will be the co-host for that. So until next time, for anybody who happened to swing through the live stream, we appreciate you. Newtonian, thanks so much for stopping by. For anyone else who happened to swing through the live stream or watches the archive version of this on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can just receive a notification whenever we go live and post new content. Although, if you're like Newtonian, your kids will sabotage your smartphone alerts and you may not get the alert or the notification. So make sure you have notifications turned on, both on YouTube and on Twitter. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, play the games that you like, and come here to talk about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity gaming channel on YouTube. My co-host tonight has been Mr. Towmaster, $4.99. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.